Hello everybody, welcome back to Ryder's BlockBuster. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Full Moon Features movie 1996, Head of the Family. Now, it's a really good movie. This is another one, I'm gonna give you a spoiler alert. There's gonna be spoilers in this little breakdown. The movie is free once again on Tubi. I'll put a link in the description below for you. If you would like to watch this before you watch the breakdown, then I highly recommend watching it because it is really good. But yeah, without further ado, let's get going. So as full moon movies usually do, there is a fairly long opening credit sequence, but this one is one of the more stagnant ones. It's just a still shot of this mansion, and we're just watching it for about 2.5 minutes before these three really odd looking characters walk out the door. They walk out kind of stiff, like there's something definitely wrong with them. We then jump over to the diner where we meet our main characters. First off, we meet Howard. We kind of learn he's just this scuzzball kind of character, he's the leather jacket wearing, Harley driving kind of guy, going around to every shop in the neighborhood, shaking them down, calling himself an entrepreneur, but saying basically like, hey, give me half of your income, and in exchange, I'm gonna let you guys stay here. We also meet Loretta, who is married to Howard, as well as Lance, who's actually the store owner. We also learn just a brief scene later that Loretta and Lance are having an affair, so there's even more reason to fear Howard. So Howard's already the kind of guy you don't want to mess with, and guess what? Lance is big time messing with him. Well, at the end of the scene, Howard comes up to Lance and he gives him the same quote-unquote business proposition that he's been giving the other shops around town, basically saying, hey Lance, listen, you're giving me half of your income from now on, that's it, deal with it. Before we leave the diner, we are also introduced to the three characters that we saw at the beginning of the movie. So these three are the Stackpools. We've got Ernestina, beautiful name, we've got Otis, and we have Wheeler. So all of the people in town kind of have this weird feeling about the Stackpools as well. So it's not just the audience, it's not just us who think that they have some strange goings-on going on. So that night, Lance and Loretta are doing the, the no pants dance. They're performing a little hanky-panky, and at the same time, they are discussing ways to get rid of Howard. They both realize, like, he's too big of a problem at this point. Their lives are in danger. He's just being rude. Like, they have to find a way to get rid of him. And that's when we cut and we see that the Stackpools are up to no good. They're pulling this fence across a road, and the fence has this little arrow directing traffic to go into their front yard. And we see this one truck who actually falls for it, and we kind of follow him in the next scene to see what's going on. So Lance and Loretta are, they're finished, they are driving home, and they come across this fence as well, and Lance just goes, I know that I haven't taken any turns, there's not supposed to be any turns on this road, this is wrong. So he gets out of the car and he goes and he investigates. Well, he goes up to the Stackpools driveway, sneaking in their bushes, and he sees that truck driver. He sees the three Stackpools pull the truck driver out of the truck, bash him over the head, and drag his body inside of the doors, and he's just like, oh my goodness, the Stackpools are getting rid of people. And then all of a sudden, that little devious light bulb over his head, ding, it just goes off. And he's like, the Stackpools are getting rid of people? I need to also get rid of someone. Maybe we can put these two ideas together. We then actually follow that guy to go inside of the Stackpool mansion just to see what's going on. And he is dragged inside, he's put on a table, and then we just hear this disembodied voice start talking to him, and he starts freaking out. He's like, what are you? And then we just cut down and we slowly pan through the Stackpools basement, and inside their basement they've got basically this mental asylum. They've got all these people who have like head injuries, just wounds all over their bodies, they're all just acting strange. Like, we got one person who's just saying snow over and over, we've got one person who's flossing, we've got one person who's just handing cards to no one. So we get this really crazy feeling, the Stackpools have been doing something awful for a long time now. So the next day, when the Stackpools come into Lance's diner, he confronts them, and he just says straightforward, he's like, hey, I've seen you guys do something shady. This is called blackmail, all right? Now I've got you. You guys need to do something for me. And their response basically is just nothing. Like, Otis picks him up by his throat. He's got this threat, to which Lance just goes like, whoa, I'll go to the cops with this. Like, I'll go to the cops. I got you. And Otis just puts him back down, and the Stackpools just seemingly walk away. It's like, oh, okay, is that it? whatever, I guess. Well, then we, we cut to that night, and Lance is just laying, he is dressed so comfortably in these, like, silk purple, in these silk purple clothes, and he is just sleeping, and then all of a sudden, boom, the door gets kicked in, Otis is there, he grabs Lance, and he abducts him and takes him to the Stackpool mansion. When Lance comes to, he is inside of the Stackpool's main living room, and he sees Wheeler with his sunglasses off, and Wheeler's got these like bulging eyes, and he just kind of, he freaks out. He's like, it's kind of ugly looking there, Wheeler. Like, Lance is just, he's so savage. He just says what's on his mind. He just calls people out. It's so funny. But then we are actually introduced to the final Stackpool member. We're introduced to Myron, and he is, dun dun dun, the head of the family. And now comes one of my favorite things in this entire movie. It's the dialogue. The dialogue between Lance and Myron is so good. It's so raw, it's so real, and it feels like just this verbal chess match, like the entire movie. But it's kind of funny because you don't get the feeling that Lance is like the epitome of intelligence, right? Myron is definitely smart. He's way, way smart. That's his thing. He's a big brain boy. But Lance, we don't get that feeling. What we get from Lance is that he's cunning. So every single thing that he says, we don't know if he's telling the truth. We don't know if he's just really good at lying about it. And the thing is, neither does Myron. So towards the end of the conversation, Myron is just straightforward and he finally goes, okay, what do you want? And Lance says, listen, I've got a problem. If you make my problem go away, then I won't be your problem anymore. And that's when we learn what Myron and the Stackpools have been doing this entire time. Myron first tells us that his 3 siblings and himself are all actually quadruplets. They are from the same fertilized egg, and so for some strange reason that resulted in them all having these strange abilities. Now, Ernestina, Otis, and Wheeler, they don't have much free will, alright? So Myron is actually, he's so intelligent that he is able to psychically link to all 3 of his siblings and control them in a way. And so they're kind of his puppets. Ernestina has this appeal to her that is undeniable. Otis is incredibly strong, and then Wheeler has the eyes, like the sense of sight and the sense of smell that like a hound dog would have. Oh, and the sense of the sense of hearing as well. So his senses are all really, really heightened. Myron then tells us that he's been kidnapping people because he's been experimenting with the human brain, because someday he wants to have his own body. He wants to put his brain into a regular human body so that he can walk around and act like normal, but he's got to test the human brain first. He's got to make sure that it's capable of storing his intelligence and his being, his entirety. So that's why he's been kidnapping people. He's been basically giving them lobotomies, been doing just amateur brain surgery, trying to figure out a solution to get his brain into a fully functioning human body. Myron says that he's going to do that same thing to Howard, and he just asks Lance, he's like, does that bother you? And Lance is just straight up, he's like, well, is there anything I can do to help all those people? And Myron just says no, and Lance goes, all right, doesn't bother me. Go ahead, do that to Howard. I don't care anymore. And the Stackpools, they agree. They're like, okay, we will get rid of Howard, then you're not our problem anymore. We then cut to that night, and Ernestina is out, and she allures Howard to her. Like, Howard just sees her on the side of the road, and he's like, well, here we go. Drives right over to her, they start making out, and then Otis pops out from behind a tree, boom, punches Howard in the face. They kidnap Howard. Howard's handled. There you go, he's done. Once they realize that Howard is actually gone, Lance and Loretta start talking, and then Lance gets ambitious. He lets greed get the best of him. He realizes that the Stackpools are stacked. Like, they are on oil money. They are on a drilling farm, so they have money on top of money. And he's like, you know what? I need a piece of that. And so he decides he wants to play his hand. He wants to go one step further. He goes to the Stackpools, he goes to Myron, and he says, hey, listen, I've changed the rules. I've changed the deal of our negotiations. In order to keep my mouth shut, I'm gonna need $2,000 a week from you. That's my risk, that's my going rate. You guys have to do it. If you don't, the police are gonna come, stop this entire operation. You'll never get a regular human body, not to mention you're probably gonna go to jail. Myron has no choice but to agree to the terms. You know, he's like, I need this operation to keep going. But of course, the second Lance is out of earshot, he talks to Wheeler and he says, hey, let's go spy on Lance, find the name of his lawyer, find out all his passwords. We need to get rid of the letter that he's got for his blackmail so that we can end up getting rid of Lance himself. We have a couple of scenes where Lance is now just like, he's loving the wealth, right? He's getting really cocky, he's drinking fancy wines, he's feeling all kinds of good about himself. And then of course, on the other side of the wall, we can just see, you know, Wheeler is right there and he's just listening always. He's always basically a shadow to Lance. And then one day Lance gets a phone call from his lawyer, and you know, the lawyer introduces himself over the phone, which Wheeler can hear, and then he asks Lance for his password, and Lance gives it. Boom, Wheeler hears that password. Now they've got the name of the lawyer, they've got the password, they can find out all the information they need to get to that letter. Otis and Wheeler are then sent to the lawyer, and it's pretty fun. We get to see them like go interact with a bus stop. We get to see them kind of interact with some real people. We see them interact with the receptionist, and the receptionist is basically like, hey, listen, the lawyer's not gonna see you guys without an appointment. And then Otis, you know, he's got his solution. He punches her in the face, knocks her out cold, and then they go in and they find the letter. They confront the lawyer, and then they start asking like, how many copies do you have? How many copies? And every time that the lawyer says, there's no more copies, I swear, they break a finger just to make sure. And then the final one, he's like, what can I possibly do to make you believe me? And Otis just kills him, just like that. Lance gets a phone call that night from Myron saying, hey, I've got your delivery, I've got your money, and I'm gonna make sure that it's a special delivery tonight, so make sure that you're alone. And that night, Lance gets a visit from Ernestina. She's got his money, and then she starts putting the moves on him, you know? But then, out of nowhere, Otis pops up and punches Lance in the face and kidnaps him. I love the Ernestina, and then boom, all of a sudden nobody expects Otis punch, boom. We also get a scene of Otis going over to Loretta's place to kidnap her, but he's got hesitancy. He keeps going like, I don't want to hurt pretty girl, no hurt pretty girl, no hurt pretty girl. And then Myron just like overtakes Otis's mind. He overtakes his own free will and forces Otis to kidnap Loretta. And during all these scenes, like Myron keeps having monologues over and over and over again. I'm gonna show one here. It's so good. Just take a listen.
Keep on talking, you little country con man. Every stupid word's a deposit in the pain bank. You just wait. Pretty soon you'll be making a withdrawal. You and that powder puff of yours.
Oh man, I just love it so much. A deposit in the pain bank. Dude, it's so raw. He's just so angry. I love the actor who does this. I love his character. I love his monologues. Oh my gosh, I just love this movie. Anyway, let's keep going. So now Lance and Loretta are both captured, and Lance is sitting upside down, but he is still so smug. I love it. And here's another one of those like verbal chess matches that I was talking about. Lance is just sitting there and he is, you know, he's got no cards basically. And then Myron's just like, dude, you've lost. And Lance goes, oh, have I? Because let's say hypothetically, if the lawyer that I first had ever ended up dying, I had a second lawyer who would be checking in on that first lawyer the entire time. He does a way better job of lying than I do, but he just like, he starts just saying he's got lawyers and lawyers and lawyers. And Myron like does not know if he's telling the truth or not. And honestly, I don't know if he's telling the truth or not. It's just something that he says, and he says it with so much conviction that you're just like, I think I believe him. And Myron's like, I think I also believe you, but I've already kidnapped you. I've already shown that like, I'm going to be taking care of you. I think I've gone too far. I can't really back out. And so he's just like, I guess we'll start out by torturing Loretta. How do you feel about that? So Loretta just starts freaking out, and of course she is desperate. Like there's nothing she can do. So she plays the only card that she has. She starts just trying to put the moves onto Myron. She starts like saying, I'm really attracted to intelligence. You know, I think brains are super sexy, that sort of thing. And Myron, you know, you don't get the sense that he's believing it, but you do get the sense that he wishes that he believed it. Like you can see that he's got a real piece of him that wants to hold on to the concept that this woman is actually in love with him and not just trying to play him. And he gets to this point where like he's leaning in to give her a kiss, and then it turns into, instead of a kiss, a lick, and his tongue just comes out, and it's super long and grotesque and dripping, and he just licks Loretta, and she freaks out, right? And she just starts, she's like, oh no, I don't like this. And Myron, at the end of it, he just basically goes like, listen, I've accepted I'm never gonna have love. Instead, I'm gonna choose to torture you. The next thing we know, we are in a theater in the Stackpool mansion, and it's funny because Myron just drops this little factoid on us. He's like, by the way, did you know that John Wilkes Booth once performed on our stage for us? And Lance is like, wait, before or after he shot Lincoln? And Myron's just like, dude, what? Like, of course it was before. Like, after he was a fugitive, he didn't do performances anymore. He killed the freaking president, dude. And then Myron, you can just tell, he's like, how have I been getting beaten by this guy in this like mental chess game this entire time? Because Lance, like I said, he's not like the same smart as Myron. He's a very different kind of smart. He's a cunning smart. He's not like the book smart that Myron has. Myron then reveals that lately he's been having all of his patients do performances for him, but his main female character has like lost the ability to speak recently, but fortunately they've got Loretta, so she'll fill in. Oh, and by the way, they're going to be doing the Joan of Arc play, and at the end they're going to have a live burning at the stake where Loretta will actually be burned alive, and that's going to be her form of torture. So Lance is going to have until the end of the performance basically to give Myron the information that he wants to see if the lawyer is real basically, or to see if like all of the blackmail things are actually destroyed or not. So that's the time frame that we're dealing with, and Loretta's just going like, oh crap, like I'm in the middle of this situation, I'm now powerless. She's forced to just go along with the play while Myron is just like zapping her the entire time, forcing her to read lines. The movie then actually kind of turns into the play itself. Like we see the mental patients as well as Loretta actually perform, and it's for about like 10 minutes. It's a good chunk of time, and they're just performing the Joan of Arc play. It's kind of fun. It's a cool little thing that you just don't see in a lot of movies, and it's just adds a little bit of charm to this one that I really, really liked. And then towards the end of the play, like as they're getting ready to burn Loretta, Lance just kind of mentions, he's like, hey, if you light that pyre on fire, it's going to burn the entire house down. And Myron's just like, no, I've got a fire suppression system. I thought of that. The very final scene of the play happens, and Loretta is actually getting burned alive, and then out of nowhere, the most unlikely hero pops out. Boom, it's our boy Otis, dude. He runs onto the stage, he saves Loretta, he's like, I saved pretty girl, and then he runs down, for some reason, into the basement. It doesn't really say why, but he runs down into the basement, and he turns off the fire suppression system. It doesn't really say why he's doing this, but it's kind of, like, you kind of get the feeling that he wants to get rid of Myron. That's his goal. Like, he has felt the influence of Myron now in him for so long. He's wanted to do his own thing. Boom, he can finally act. The power of pretty girls has allowed Otis to overcome his mental block of Myron. So now the house is on fire, and of course Myron's freaking out. He starts, he turns his wheelchair around and he starts fleeing, and basically Lance is just free also to go now. So he gets up, he follows Myron out, and guess what? Myron is now at the top of the staircase. He can't do anything. Lance grabs Myron's wheelchair and just tosses him out of it, tosses Myron down the stairs. He flies down and just lands. Boom. He's not quite dead, but he is not doing well. Lance then runs down into the basement to try and find Loretta. He's like, crap, I still have to save her. He still loves her, at least some part of him does. And so he gets down there, and as he's looking around, he doesn't find Loretta. Instead, he finds Ernestina. And Ernestina, she's sitting there and she starts putting the moves on him again. And then we remember, that's right, Myron is still controlling Ernestina. He starts talking to Lance, and he starts saying like, you should have saved me. You should have saved me. I needed you to save me. And then Wheeler pops out behind Ernestina and stabs Lance multiple times in the stomach. Lance, at the same time, he's able to gouge Wheeler's eyes out. He's able to do some damage on Wheeler as well, and they both fall down dead. We then cut over to Myron, and he is just at the bottom of the stairs. He's bleeding out, he's dying. Ernestina is kneeling down next to him. They both just have admitted that they've lost. The fire is engulfing the town. Smoke is coming in. Cut to black. And then we cut to the final two, our survivors of the movie, If you guys guessed that it was going to be Otis and Loretta, you gotta let me know, because I did not see that coming at all. Like, I did not expect Otis to end up being kind of like the hero in the end, and I definitely didn't expect Loretta to live over Lance. I thought Lance was so cunning. I thought he was definitely, you know, going to be coming out on top of this, but Otis and Loretta end up making it out alive. And Loretta is, you know, they're sitting out there, and she looks over and she sees Otis, and he just kind of goes like, "Oh, you're a pretty girl." And she's like, "Yeah, well, you're Otis Stackpool." And then she goes, "Oh, wait, you're Otis Stackpool. You're the last surviving Stackpool. The Stackpools are rich. You think I'm pretty? Let's see." And then the very final scene of the movie, both of them are getting hitched, and that is the end. That's the end of Head of the Family, you guys. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. It's such a fun movie. Like I said, it is free on Tubi, so don't forget to check out that link down in the description below. And thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. If you enjoyed the movie, don't forget to leave a like, and don't be afraid to subscribe. It always helps me out, makes me feel really good. Let me know if there's a movie that you would recommend that I break down in the future. But yeah, until then, I hope you guys have just a great day. Bye!